What's up, everybody? Welcome to the last couple of days of the cruise and heading home. So for starters, we're starting with this video in the beautiful town, city, whatever you want to call it, of Mykonos. So we decided to actually do a walking tour through the city, village. I'm just going to call it a city because it's easy. Just because we wanted to see some of the beautiful colors, the beautiful architecture, and just kind of get that like feet on the ground kind of vibe rather than doing a drive or anything. We then took a walk over to the windmills and we saw all of those, and from there we had some free time. Greg and I wandered through the city, did a little bit of souvenir shopping, which you guys will see in tomorrow's video. And then we found a cafe and we got some affogato and we also got some waffle bites. They didn't make the video because we inhaled them pretty much right away. Then, as typical, I found water. I had to get into the water. It's this tradition that I've always had anytime we go on a cruise, that if I'm able to get my feet in the local water kind of a thing, I do it. And then from there we had the option to actually take a sea bus back to the terminal to get back onto the ship, or we could walk. So we decided to take the sea bus. And then because there really wasn't much to do for the rest of the day, Greg and I went to Crown and Compass to have lunch. I had that Guinness stout martini again. Greg had, I think it was a limoncello cocktail of some sort. And we decided to get the fried pickles, mac and cheese bites, and soft pretzels. The mac and cheese bites were hands down the winner. They had lobster in them, but look how much breading was on the pickles. It was ridiculous. I wasn't overly impressed and I wouldn't recommend the fried pickles. From there, it was time to leave that evening, and just look how beautiful the view was as we were sailing away. So the next day, we were actually in Crete. It was kind of disappointing because our excursion got canceled. We were supposed to take a boat ride of the island, but they had like high waves and high winds and they were concerned for safety. So instead we started with lunch at Playmakers. I got the Impossible Burger and Greg got the Pub Burger. They were fantastic, and honestly I love their French fries. They cover their French fries in garlic and Parmesan cheese. I mean, look at that cheese. It is just fantastic. And that evening at dinner, it was the crew appreciation night and just celebrating the crew from all over the world and how great they are. The next day was our last day on board, and it was a sea day, and Greg and I signed up to do, it's called Ripcord by iFly. Basically, it's just giant wind tunnel and you can go skydiving in it. It was so much fun. We each got 2 rounds of skydiving. The first one, we were all really weird and really awkward, and it just didn't really work out so well. But then on the second one, we all were doing a lot better. The instructor was actually coaching everybody and kind of encouraging everybody to do their best and telling them what to adjust and how to adjust, just to make it that much easier. After that, it was time for us to head back to our room and start getting packed. But we kept getting distracted by the views and just how beautiful it was. And at one point, we actually saw a pilot boat come up, and it's really cool. If you don't know what that is, a lot of times if you're going through either a really narrow area or a really shallow area or something where like the radar and sonar on the ship is just throwing things off, the local Coast Guard will actually bring a pilot on board that will help navigate the ship through those areas, which we got to see. When we were prepping for this trip, we saw this. It's like Coke Zero Lemon. And so we found it in Greece. And from what we heard, you could only find it in Greece. So we put it in a cup. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. That is very subtle. Like, I taste more Coke Zero than anything, but then you get like a hint of lemon at the very back. Interesting. That is very, very interesting, but it's really cool because it's actually, you can see it's all in Greek. It's all Greek to me, but it's lemon Coke Zero. Interesting. So for dinner that evening, just to celebrate an amazing trip, we made reservations and surprised my parents at Chops Grill, which is Royal Caribbean Signature Steakhouse. They have it on every single one of their ships. You do pay up front for it whenever you're making the reservation, but then you get a starter, an appetizer, your main, a side, and the dessert. And we've never tried Chops before. Usually with the Key program, we get Chops for lunch, but we've never done dinner. And so it is considered signature dining. There is a little bit of a dress code. Like they do want you to do like dressy casual, but we thought that would be perfect to wrap up this trip. So for my starter, I had the tuna tartare. My mom had the Caesar salad. My dad had the crab cake. And I think Greg also got the crab cake. But then we all either got the lobster bisque or the wild mushroom soup, which you may have seen on my first video, or day one, I should say. Everybody else got the steak, and then I got the salmon with a whole grain mustard. And then look at those sides. Those are the shareable sides. How crazy is that? So then when you go to pack up, you will find these luggage tags in your room. Basically, they all have a group number on it that you're assigned based on your travel details. This was departure morning, so on your TV, you will actually pull it up and it'll show you what group is being called. Once you scan your SeaPass card to get off the ship, you will disembark, you go through the terminal, and then you find your number, and that's where your luggage will be. So from there, we got on a transfer back to the airport. It was about an hour to get back to the airport, but then once we got our bags checked, got through customs, I had to have gelato one last time. I got a hazelnut chocolate gelato and then a tiramisu, and they were fantastic. And I have to say, the shopping, like the duty-free airport shopping in Rome, is really legit. There were so many different options and things to get. And then it was really cool. This is the first time I've ever been on an airplane that had the escalator that goes down to the jetway. I've never done that before, and it was really, really fun. And so we got on our flight home. We flew Air Canada. Whenever we were booking our flights, this is just what ended up working out the best for our scheduling. So we booked Air Canada. We flew from Rome into Toronto. We actually had an overnight layover, so we landed in Toronto at like 6 p.m. and then our flight the next morning was at 6 a.m. And so we were able to actually get some sleep and all of that. So Greg and I were in row 7. We were 7D and 7G. And the pod, suite, whatever you want to call it, was set up very similarly to the way our United flight over was, except I feel like it was a little bit bigger. The blankets weren't as soft as on United. I mean, on United they used the Saks Fifth Avenue bedding, but the control system to lay your seat down, relax it, control all the lighting and everything, it was so much easier than what was on the United flight. And it actually had a little massager built in, so if you wanted like a back massage, it worked for like 10 minutes, I want to say. And then the menu was actually very interesting. So with United, when we flew over, we had to pre-book our meals, but on Air Canada, they just had everything available. So I ended up getting the pasta, but Greg chose the veal ossobuco. We also had the prawns, and then for dessert, honestly, I think I skipped dessert because I just wanted to sleep and rest. But it was I felt like it was a little bit of a nicer selection on this menu than what was on the other menu. So from there, I was still exploring the pod. It was, like I said, much more spacious, I think, than the United. And then our amenity kit, we got an Aqua di Parma amenity kit, which was, honestly, I liked a little bit better. The pouch was bigger, so it was easier to get everything in, but you started with your basics, socks and an eye mask. And then the socks were not as nice as the United socks, but I didn't wear them either. And then in the amenity kit, you did have the typical. You had the earplugs, you had the dental kit, and then you had a tiny little Aqua di Parma that it had lip balm and hand cream in it. One thing I really liked about this suite was in your little like bin, you had all your plugs, but they actually had gaps in the lid so that your cords would fit through everything. The screen was a little bit bigger, and honestly, I felt like the entertainment options and selections were actually a lot nicer than what was on the United. There were full seasons of stuff that you could watch, a lot more movie selection. But the really cool thing about this particular entertainment system is they actually had a My List, where as you were going through, you could add things to your list to watch, so that once one movie was over, you didn't have to keep coming back and going through the whole entire list. You could actually just pick from your list of what you wanted. So I added probably 5 or 6 movies to my list, and then instead of having to go back constantly and scroll through, I was able to just go and pick what I liked. When it was time for dinner, I got the prawns and the salad. The prawns were absolutely amazing. I feel like the presentation was so much nicer than what was on United. And then they gave you this olive oil and balsamic vinegar little dressing. It was really good, and you just shake it up and poured it over your salad. And then I got the pasta, which was pretty good. Because it was an afternoon flight, I tried not to sleep just so that I didn't throw my body clock off. So I watched movies, and then when we landed in Toronto, I was so excited because I got Tim Hortons coffee that I missed from Pennsylvania. So that is our cruise wrap up. I will see you guys in tomorrow's video.